I made 3 questions to the Apex Legends devs, and these are their answers. As a member of the Apex Legends Creators Hub, we were invited to join in with the Apex Legends devs to ask them some questions regarding the Season 28 of Apex Legends. I'm gonna show you now the 3 questions I asked the devs and their answers.
Was Bloodhound balanced this season with competitive play in mind, or are they now positioned more as a ranked and pubs focused legend compared to other recon options?
Sure. So Bloodhound, just in general, like they were on the weaker side of things, sort of across the board. It wasn't like in one particular area they were weak. So we felt like the changes should target like all levels of competition, and generally every character sort of balanced that idea. Like we're not trying to be like, hey, we're only LGS, we're only gonna balance for pubs. Every level, we want them to be viable, though we understand like games change over time, right? How the game is played in ALGS is very different than how it gets played in pubs, and so it's just sort of natural for certain characters to be stronger in certain arenas versus others. I'd say like one general guideline for us though is like it shouldn't feel like you have to, like if I want to be a Bloodhound player, I shouldn't be like I have to not pick Blood to sort of get to Plat, Diamond Plus. Like if I feel like I have to dump my character because they're not strong enough, that's a feeling we don't want to have. Every character should feel like, hey, if I'm good enough for one trick, I should be able to make it work at the higher levels. So that's usually how we try to think about balance. It's not like ranks versus pubs. It's like, do they have viability and sort of across all skill bands?
Right. And they had another question about Bloodhound too, about his current design. How are they meant to compete against legends that can provide scans from safer distances or combine information with mobility and escape options?
Yeah, I mean that's just again, can't speak to anything right now, but that sort of also goes into what our plans for Bloodhound are in the future. We think like there needs to be sort of a stronger role for that, because another thing, just going back to in terms of scans, like scans are a thing that we've sort of tried buffing to make them feel more useful, but then as an opponent you feel like, oh, I'm constantly scanned, I don't want to move anywhere, I don't want to do anything. That sort of like freezes you out from playing. So we're trying to find ways to add more not much more power, but like more uniqueness to the kit. How do you feel like a cool stick tracker? Like you watch the cinematics for Bloodhound, you should feel like I'm hunting this person down, I'm gonna kill him with an axe, right? Like that should be more of the feeling. And so we're just trying to like adjust with that in mind. So it's not necessarily about like, hey, do we need to give them movement? Do we need to give them even better scans? It's like maybe is there some other elements of their kit we can sort of rebalance to make it feel like you have that sensation of being a hunter and a tracker more.
For sure. The last part of this question is for you, Connor. For Season 28, was Hardlight designed to shift macro-level decision-making in competitive play, or is it intended to increase micro-level fight complexity? How do you evaluate whether it's adding strategic depth versus simply creating visual or mechanical pressure? And are there any plans to add more buildings to maps that currently have lower building density? All really good questions.
Yeah, I like this question, or this multi-part question, quite a bit. So I did take some notes. If you see me reading, that's what I'm reading from. So for the first part, what were we thinking about when we designed Hardlight? When we designed Hardlight, we're always designing to impact both macro and micro play, as we're adding what we kind of call a new change to the Battle Royale sandbox, right? So while we're considering, of course, competitive play in a lot of our design settings, it's rare that we're designing a change specifically targeted at competitive, like an ALGS. That's not our first step. As Devin kind of mentioned earlier, we're trying to make sure that a change is impacting fairly in an interesting way for all skill bands. When we kind of evolve the BR, we're trying to find out what is going to add something for every player who's coming to the game. And sometimes that has an impact on one end of the skill spectrum more than on the other end. So we do recognize that. And I think this is an example where like Hardlight's definitely going to change those end games where you have a competitive setting like ALGS or high ranked play where you have teams co-occupying a lot of space together. Like we just know that's going to be different now because of Hardlight. And that's, as mentioned previously, not something that you're probably going to see a lot in the casual game space. Now, when it comes to like what we want to change for macro decision making, we expect that's going to change what buildings you can occupy, where you're going to rotate, what are the stronger positions to hold, the god spots, and so forth. And then when it comes to the micro like decision making, beyond things like team composition, which is something you're making choices on before you even get into the game, we do think that in-game things like weapon choice is going to change. Your positional choices in fights, not just the macro of which building am I holding, but what lane am I taking? Which angle am I going to cut using a movement ability or using a weapon to break open a window to kind of get in? So all of this is again like a new layer to the battlefield, or sorry, to the battle royale experience. And when it comes to the game as it stands already, we already have doors that have like a lot of layered complexity about how you play around doors, and this is just a new tool that sits alongside them, like zip lines and like other sort of interactives in the world itself. And the other thing I would just say is, like when you are looking at that, we want to make sure that we have a way for us to leverage new opportunities for players to kind of do fun and interesting things as we continue to make Apex different and evolve into like a better, more perfect version of itself. So I don't have anything like specific to share about how are we going to change building density in particular, in terms of like on a map or how much Hardlight is there, but you can kind of see how I'm talking about it as this is like a new core fundamental that is going to change hopefully all skill expressions across the game, and we're going to continue to find new and interesting ways to use it. And one of the fun things we can do that we couldn't do with something like a door is we can put it on a roof, and now you have a new way into a building that wasn't previously there, and that can hopefully make some fun moments that, as Gina said, clip and send them to us.
Do it. We're always looking. We're watching. We send them internally to each other. It's super fun, so do it.
So, what are your thoughts on these questions and their answers? Would you like to ask them some questions as well? And if so, what would you ask them? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.